You're listening to Funny Peculiar with Jeff Downs.
Welcome to another episode of Funny Peculiar. This is episode 9, and this week I have the very wonderful and very talented Ernesto Tomasini. Now, Ernesto is Italian. He's an actor, singer. He's been living and writing in Britain for the last 30 years, but he's known for this falsetto voice that he has. Now, he'll tell you all about that. You can follow Ernesto on Instagram. So while the interview's starting, check out his pictures. So he's on Instagram as Ernesto Tomasini. I'll spell that for all of the all his social media. So it's Ernesto, Ernesto, and Tomasini is spelled Tomasini. And you can get him on Facebook, Twitter, and he has his own website. But anyway, it's a great episode. We talk a lot about falsetto and the traditions and where it came from, and also the drag culture back in the 80s, which Ernesto was around then. But anyway, without further ado, there's so much to listen to. It's worth every minute. It's a great episode, and one of my first performers that is on Wikipedia. Oh yes, doesn't get much better than this. Please welcome the fabulous, the wonderful, the gorgeous Ernesto Tomasini. Welcome to Funny Peculiar Podcast, and this week we have the amazing and the most wonderful Ernesto Tomasini. Am I saying that right, Ernesto?
You are saying it beautifully, and Funny Peculiar sounds just like me, baby. So
it's perfect.
Welcome to my Funny Peculiar world.
No, thank you. Thank you for letting me chat to you. And we were just going Google mad trying to track down, because we were talking about the your extensive career and 35 years. Just to sort of recap for people that are listening that won't have heard of you, and shame on them if they haven't. But,
well, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, I'll say. But so you've been performing for the last 35 years, all around the world, global.
Yes.
You're a singer. You do. I've watched and seen various acts on YouTube, and you do a very sort of high falsetto voice. This is the kind of act that you're known for. But you've done various other stuff. You've done voiceover work for Ridley Scott. You've been on BBC Radio. You've been on Classic FM, and also I saw as well you collect Julie Andrews memorabilia. Is that right?
I do.
You do.
I think I've got the most extensive collection of Julie Andrews memorabilia in the world.
Wow.
Well,
sort of stuff? We'll just have a quick. What sort of stuff have you got of Julie Andrews?
Well, there's a lot of stuff to collect, because she was huge even in the 40s, and then the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and 80s. Yeah. So there is a lot to collect, and I've got it all. I've got a program of her debut as a 12-year-old at the London Hippodrome.
Wow.
when he was still a theatre before it became a club and then a casino like it's today.
Yeah.
And yes, a 12-year-old Julie singing an operatic aria, and I've got the program, and even the Bakelite record, the 78 record that was made at the time, like in 1947.
Wow.
Even. Yes.
So she was 12 when she started singing that, so I didn't know.
Well, no, she was a lot younger. She was 6 and 7, but then she used to sing with her parents, because her parents were music hall artists, and she joined their act. And then when she was 12, she went solo. So wow. I've got. She made a proper debut when she was 12, but right. she sang. She first sang when she was 7 in public. Yeah.
And what drew you to Julie Andrews? What did you particularly like about?
Because when I was queer and I was young and I was lonely and I didn't know that there was anything else like me, anyone else like me, I just had Mary Poppins from when I was 7 and 8 or 8, and then I just thought that was a beautiful way of singing, and so as a little boy I didn't know anything else, and I just sang like Julie Andrews. and I did. And so she helped me to become who I am now as a little boy. She told me, be queer, you little silly boy. You can be whatever you like. Sing with your own voice, for God's sake.
And have you met her? Have you obviously sound like you?
Yes, several times.
Wow.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And they say never meet your heroes or heroines, but she didn't disappoint, I take it.
No, she just. I discovered a new, another face, let's say, to her, which was useful to me because I met her when I was really young, and I discovered that there's a dream, and then there's also a reality behind the dream, and there is, somebody who sings beautiful, poetic things, but behind that there is also a businesswoman. And I learned that, and I, swallowed that, and and I, I became.
It's hard work. If you obviously you testify for 35 years, what do you find? Would you say it splits the? And I'm sort of doing performance as well, but not as long as you've done. Is it come down to 50% talent, 50% hard work? Is that? Would you agree?
Well, yes. Obviously, there's also luck. I mean, there's a lot of luck that comes your way, and there is a lot of luck that doesn't come your way. So that is huge, because a talent. Let's speak about Julie Andrews. She's a huge talent, obviously, with something specific about her and peculiarities about her and stuff. But there are so many other women who used to be as talented, maybe, or even more sometimes, but they didn't get those chances. They didn't get those trains passing by. And so they never got their Sound of Music. They never got their Mary Poppins, so they could never become as big. But yes, it's all about piling up experience and being there and learn your craft along the way and do all the things that come your way, and at the end of the day you will gather all of this and you will be some entity before you even you realize, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So if we just to sort of go back to where it all started, and you're originally from Italy.
Yes.
So from a little town. Well, I say a little town. It's
a big city actually in Italian terms. In fact, it's a cultural capital of culture of Italy in 2018.
Oh, right.
So right now it's got all the eyes of the world on it.
Well, we've just had Hull. I think it was Hull in England.
Right.
It was getting that. So it's actually now. So is it Palermo? Am I saying that right?
Palermo. I would say Palermo is probably the Manchester or Liverpool of Italy. You know, It's got that kind of. It's not exactly London, but that would be Rome or Milan. But you know, it's big enough, and it's got its cultural heritage and tradition and blah blah blah. And so
and you came over to England. How old were you when you came over?
Well, first time I was 13. I only came for the summer. That was long before I actually moved to London, to England. And then I came back when I was 14 with my parents. And then I just came back until I moved to London when I was, I'm not going to tell you how old I was, but it was in 1992.
Right, okay. So you were, well, we won't go into ages or anything like that.
How dare you?
So I would never ask. But, well, we were talking about your style of singing and the tradition of, and I didn't know this, and you were telling me about it, is this castrato style, which goes back. Now, this is an Italian style that goes back a couple of centuries.
It is. Yeah. Many, about, I think, 5 centuries. So basically what happened was, the Vatican in the 1500s forbid women to sing in church because there is a letter in the Bible. There's a letter by St. Paul that says women have to shut up in church. They can't even talk.
Really?
So yes, you'll find that in the Bible. So they couldn't not only they couldn't talk, they couldn't sing. So they had to find male voices that could reach those those higher tones. And so one thing led to another, and they started castrating prepubescent boys.
Right.
How quaint.
As you do, yes. Just
As you do. And that phenomenon became bigger and bigger and bigger until, it became like the first ever pop phenomenon, really, because churches would just be swarmed with people because of the castrati. They were like big stars of their time. They were like the Madonna, the Michael Jackson combined of the 16th century and so on and so forth. So
because they had these cherubic, beautiful voices that obviously men couldn't get close to because these were young boys,
and not even women, because they basically they had the purity of a young boy's voice with the breathing capacity of a grown man. So there were these singing machines. They were huge, and also because of the condition, castrating and hence forbidding puberty to kick in would create these huge men. They were hugely tall. They would be like over 7 feet tall sometimes. Farinelli, the most famous of the castrati,
really
was 7 foot tall.
Wow.
He was a huge guy. Obesity and gigantism would kick in. So, but the interesting point is that 5,000 children were castrated every year in Italy.
Oh.
And out of these boys, only 1% would become opera divas, opera stars.
So it wasn't.
All the rest would be.
Sorry, it wasn't.
Of course, it wasn't.
It wasn't guaranteed that even if you were castrated, you'd have a great voice. They were trying to always find the
Not
next.
At all.
Right. To find.
It would be a bit like today's young teen models who would go for an operation to their tits to get bigger tits.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of these girls who go through that eventually end up being a top model? Maybe one or two every 5 years, and all the rest is just like rubble. And the same used to happen at the time.
So, well, it brings a new light to Aled Jones's career. If only he'd been. And they were obviously trained voices, and they were taught to sing in a particular way. Was that part of it? And did you learn your singing technique from? It's obviously when you were growing up. Is that where you found your voice?
Not really. I found my voice, actually, oddly enough, to go back to your initial question, through Julie Andrews. I just wanted to. I was a little boy, but not knowing anything else about the outside world, and wanting to be what I was hearing in records. And my record collection included My Fair Lady and The Sound of Music and all that. So I was just trying to reproduce that sound, really. So I got through, and then eventually I learned that there were men in Italy who were castrated, blah, 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 blah. And then, obviously, I wrote a show about it. And in order to play in that show, I kind of developed the style of the castrati. But we know very little about it because there was only one castrato that was ever recorded in 1902. So it's one of the first ever recordings ever made.
Oh, really?
His name was Alessandro Moreschi. He was the director of the Sistine Chapel Choir, and he was recorded by people who made the first ever recordings. I mean, the recordings were invented in the 1890s. So he was recorded in 1902. And he died in 1922, and he was already the last castrato, the last ever man to be castrated.
It was outlawed at some point.
Oh, completely, totally. It was outlawed, and he was considered old-fashioned. Even Rossini, Gioacchino Rossini, who wrote his very first operas for castrati in the early 19th century. He later on, the tradition he disliked, and he was very much against it. And and it was forgotten. It was forgotten. The last castrati sang in brothels, and they ended up in poverty, and it was just like a forgotten fashion from another era, really.
Well, I suppose in a way similar over here with. In Shakespearean times, I think women weren't allowed to act, so
Totally.
the boys.
It's the same thing. It's very similar. Boys playing female roles during Shakespeare time, and then Restoration, and everything else changed, and so female roles were played by women eventually, and very similar phenomenon. Yes.
That's interesting. And just sort of as we were saying earlier. When you're in London as well, and talk about Shakespeare, because I think the term drag comes from a Shakespearean term, doesn't it, for boys?
Some people say that. We don't really know. But I'll tell you what. When I first came to London, before I moved to London, I came because my university thesis was about drag, in the history of drag, from shamanic rituals down to the 80s, which is when I got my degree, and I went to London to interview. My degree was one of the first ever degrees to thesis to be done with video. So I went with my VHS video camera to Madame Jojo's and the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. I've got so much material that today would be so precious. I haven't made it public yet. Video of Lily Savage in her very early days, and Regina Fong, and
Madame Jojo's was huge, wasn't it? Huge.
Yes, and I've got like Stella Artois and stars that you wouldn't even know today.
Wow.
Like, really, and I don't know, like Lee Paris and Jimmy and the Trollettes, both of them. I mean, names that today are legendary for those guys who were there at the time that are now forgotten, those names.
Well, and that, I suppose they were the RuPauls of their day before this drag had gone so
Oh my God, completely. I mean, Lily Savage, come on, I think she's still famous. Paul O'Grady is still a well-known TV entertainer, but, as Lily Savage in the late 80s. I think he really started like in 88, 89.
I think he did,
if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And I was there. I've got the videos.
So you were there filming for your thesis?
I was. Yes.
Wow. And did you just film them? Did you interview them? Or
I filmed and I interviewed, and I filmed the interviews and the shows, and I've got them all. And
this has got to be a documentary you need to release. This sounds.
They're like in a cupboard. The quality of the video is not that good because obviously it was with my There were VHS tapes inside the bloody video camera. It was a huge thing that I would carry around. Thank God I had a boyfriend that he could carry it because yes, so I've got like
that's incredible.
There was an act called Millie Mop.
Right.
And she was huge in the early 90s. And then, I can't remember, so many names. And I've got like minor acts and bigger acts, and I've got their interviews, and I've got their shows, and I've got Gay Pride from 1992 on video, and so on and so forth. So yes.
And so you completed your thesis on this whole drag, and you graduated. So you went back to Italy, did you? Is that right? And then you.
Yes. Well, no, I graduated in 1992.
Yeah.
And then I moved to London in 92. But as I said, because of the thesis and because of my personal interest, I just wanted to go and dance on rooftops with Mary Poppins. Really, that's why I went to London, and I found that, but alongside that, I found other stuff, and I went again and again and again until I moved to London, and that was in 92 when I got my degree, and I've been there since 1992,
And so you started to, and obviously going to these clubs, this is where you started to develop your acts. Is that how it began? Did you start to then get on stage yourself?
Well, okay. So I made my debut when I was 16
Wow.
in America, where I went first.
Ah.
I began my career in America, and then I went back to Italy because I had to, because of lots of different reasons. And so, and in Italy, I established myself as a cabaret artiste extraordinaire, and then as a thespian.
Right.
So the two things were always like going parallel in my life. So when I went to London, I just carried on doing what I'd always been done. I went to drama school. I went to the Arts Educational Drama School, which is like the top musical theatre drama school maybe in the world, I would say. And then I was just lucky that I got to perform with these big companies. I was in the West End I was in Chicago, the musical, for a year and a half in the West End.
So just to go back, so you were in Italy doing drag, is that right? When you
Yeah, well, yes, never drag as such.
is that as big as it is over here in Italy, drag, or is it a sort of smaller?
No, it's quite big.
It's
It's quite
huge.
big. Also, you've got some established mainstream stars in Italy who are basically drag queens, really.
Yeah.
So it's a well respected. Because also it's got its roots in commedia dell'arte. Like in old Italian
Sure.
medieval theatrical tradition. So it's well rooted in history and in tradition, and drag is quite big in Italy. Probably not bigger than in the UK, but quite. Yeah, it's kind of the same in a different way. Yeah, maybe it's more mainstream in Italy,
Yeah.
because in England it's still a bit like it's still a bit gay, or a bit like yeah, on the side. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really mainstream. It's got like a kind of a unique, different, peculiar quality to it, which
Yeah.
probably in Italy doesn't have it. But yeah, so
And so you did the shows, and so you were in Chicago for a year and a half. So you were sort of treading the boards, as it were, and working, living, paying your rent, and then
yes,
and then it
yes.
was and then sort of, and we were talking as well about the early. You were talking about Madame Jojo's there, and I put a club back to you, Kinky Galinky, which is a very famous, sort of
Yes.
very very early, and you were there. Sort of,
Yeah, even before all of this, even before Chicago, and even before everything else that we discussed. Yes, I was part of Kinky Galinky, and then
so can you just
Minty,
for people
and
that, sorry Ernesto, just for people that
yes,
are listening that won't know about Kinky Galinky, and we'll talk about it to the day, endless, but it was like Madame Jojo's, but this was a sort of fetish drag club. You tell us in your own
yes,
words.
but more than Kinky Galinky, I mean, Kinky Galinky was really early on. I was more part of the Siren Suite, and the Siren Suite was created by the same people who created Kinky Galinky, and it was the most bizarre club, because people would go and dance to the tune of classical music. So
Right.
people were dancing like there was a beat in the music, like you were in a club, in a discotheque.
Yeah.
But the music was like Tchaikovsky and Shostakovich and all
Right.
of that. And later on in the night, they would put a beat to the classical music. It was hugely popular. I mean, Debbie Harry was there, and Jarvis Cocker was there. I've got pictures with all of them. They would come backstage and mingle with us, and that was a crazy time. That was in the 90s. Yes.
So yeah, that was, and this was again very much, gender bending. People would,
Oh,
men would,
completely.
men dressed as women, women dressed as men. So it was all
Oh,
going on.
but more than that, because there were people dressing up as creatures, not even gender
Okay.
specific anything. There were lots of people from the St. Martin's.
Oh, the fashion college, is it? Yeah.
Fashion college, yes, and then fashion people and all that, and it was just a very beautiful and bizarre time.
What's
what you mentioned
what's the
before.
most outrageous costume do you think you've seen then, in your
Oh
memory?
my God! Oh, so many. I can't even. How many? It would be a long conversation. Yes. Also, I was part of the Liverpool's alternative Miss. What's it called? The alternative Liverpool.
Like Miss
Beauty,
Universe, beauty
Miss
contest. Yeah, right. Yeah.
alternative Miss Universe. Yes. In Liverpool, with the creator from London, and so I really have seen so much. I've seen like a huge ball gown, like the King and I kind
Right.
of ball gown, like massive, made of pubic hair.
Right.
So that is probably the most outrageous one I've seen
Right.
a long time ago.
That,
Yeah.
and also at that time as well, and being gay and dressing, was there, once out of the club, did you feel nervous or vulnerable at all, or you
Well,
just...
I was queer bashed about 3 times, majorly. I was in 1987. I was with 3 friends, and we had just been to a club where we performed our show. And so when we left, we're still singing our songs and stuff. And a group of about 20 to 30 guys that was in Bethnal Green. Bethnal Green, that today is like a gay spot #1.
Yeah.
But we were hit by
Oh.
snooker sticks,
Oh dear.
and one of the guys ended up in a coma,
Oh.
and it was horrible. 1987, baby, you weren't even born, and I was already being hit by sticks. Do you know what I mean?
Oh well, it's
Well.
well. I was around, but that's just. I know I lived in London myself for a long time, and that's awful. That's awful to think. And so,
Yeah.
How did that
I've been
make?
through that. I got some, people were spitting on me, and the 80s were tough. Obviously, they were incredible years as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there was the fact that it was forbidden, somehow that kind of forbidden atmosphere made it special. And you would get to a pub or a club, and you would close the door behind you, and you felt safe, and you felt
Yeah.
special. There was something beautiful about that. And Earls Court in those days was like a dream. I'm writing a book about it right now.
Ah,
And
right.
because Earls Court, well, I mean, nobody would ever guess that that part of town, which is so posh today, but in those days was the gay capital of the universe.
Well, it was. Did you know a place called the Phil Beach Hotel?
Oh, no. Really? Well, of course, very well.
I think. Well, I went. I used to go there myself. You
Really?
see, because they did a dressing. Because I dress up, they did a dressing service, and I'd never dressed before. And you're right. Just round the corner from the Earls Court Exhibition Centre, this huge venue, there's that crescent.
There's that crescent,
And right
of
in the
course.
middle is this oasis,
Of
this Phil Beach show.
course.
And there was Jimmy the Barman. And I
I know, but I mean, I don't know when you went, but in the very old days, like the 70s and the 80s,
Right.
the whole of Earls Court was
Really?
like door after door after door was a gay club,
Wow.
a gay pub, a
Okay.
gay place. And it was huge. Everybody knew, and now it really surprises me that young kids have no idea of this heritage. It was like massive. It wasn't just a couple of clubs. It was really gay capital of the world.
Wow.
There was nowhere else in the world that was anywhere near Earls Court in the 80s.
So, and again, for people listening, so Earls Court was kind of West London, was it? I think it is.
Yes. It's Zone 1, but it's the western edge of Zone 1.
And for that part of London, it's a very nice part of London. There's the Earls Court Exhibition Hall, which has had...
It's not there anymore. They tore it down.
Oh, they tore that?
The Tories tore it down.
So,
because they're building Tory Town there.
right. Is it really? That all got to...
all gone.
It's all but it was, yes, there you go, historic. It was the Earls Court Exhibition Centre. So, just to get to the sort of the acts that you sort of are known for today, which is and you've done various shows, haven't you? One-man shows. So what was your very first one-man show? When did you do that?
Yes, well, again, my first ever, I was 16, and that was in the States. But in the UK,
Whereabouts in the
okay,
States? Sorry, just to ask, whereabouts in
in
America?
LA, in
Oh,
Los
is it?
Angeles.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I was studying there in the school founded by Walt Disney in person,
Oh,
the California Institute of the Arts,
wow.
and part of our education was acting because I was a designer. So in order to draw cartoons, you had to also do facial expressions and all that. So anyway, but that's another story. The more interesting story is that in London, um, I was, I think it was 2001 or two, and that was the first ever burlesque show ever held in London, and I was the first ever compare
Oh,
of a burlesque show in London. I've got all the information written down somewhere. I've got all the posters and everything else.
wow.
It was done as a workshop. It wasn't even a trend at the time. I think it was 2000 and maybe even 2000,
Yeah.
the year 2000. It was the first ever burlesque show in the world because the whole movement started in London and then it went to America, and
And
I was
that's
the compare of that.
wow. And that because it's really burlesque now is huge, but back
Yeah,
then
I know, and
you
that
were
no, it
there.
wasn't. It didn't exist at all. That was the
Yeah.
first one ever, and it was at the Menier's Chocolate Factory, which now is a theatre. At the time, it was just an empty space,
Yeah.
and and I met so many acts, and
And what? And
and then
what? Sorry, and I got to ask,
yeah.
what were you wearing? What was your outfit?
I was wearing an outfit made especially for me, and I am the only one he ever made an outfit for, by the Transformer. He is a very cult 80s, 90s figure. He used to hold court in heaven at the fruit machine.
Okay.
He just made these incredible costumes that he would parade up and down Gay Pride and nightclubs and stuff. And really, they were like sculptures, huge, like
Well, okay.
incredible. That research the Transformer. Please look for him. He
Yes.
was a legend. People of my age will know. People in their 50s and 40s and 30s, late 30s,
Yeah.
they will know because
So
he was like
and he was called Transfer. And just to sort of for
the
people
Transformer.
and for
Yes.
people listening that are around the world, we have global now. So Heaven was the gay nightclub in Soho, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. In
London.
Soho. Yes. Just off the Strand. Yes.
Yes, in the heart of Theatreland, really, isn't it? So,
Yes. Totally. Yeah. It's on the way to the Embankment tube station. Yes. It's still there in
It's
Villiers Street.
it's
Still there.
it's still going strong. And so that was your first show, and then all these times you've been performance, and obviously you've had complete wonderful success. Has there only been a show where it's not gone to plan? It's gone.
Oh my God. Yes.
And do those make you stronger? Can you think of a show where it really did go
Well,
very wrong?
it's such a horrible cliche, but it's so horribly true that you learn out of your flops, really. You learn out of when it goes wrong, because it's easy when it goes right, because you really don't have much to learn there. It's just going well, and people are enjoying it, and you just do what you can do and what you're good at, and that's fine. But when things don't go according to plan, yes, I mean, sometimes you are the wrong act at the wrong time, in the wrong place. They don't want to know about an act, let alone you looking like a freak, and So that
So
can be very wrong.
you've been on stage where basically you're just being stared at by people are just like, we are not sure
yeah.
what is going on.
Oh yes, yes, completely. So what do? I've tried all sorts. Sometimes, I followed Peggy Lee. Peggy Lee was a singer from the 50s, and she used to say, when I used to sing these restaurant gigs where nobody wanted to know about a singer, I would just go really quiet. I would sing so quietly and really sing so like that? And that, oddly enough, strangely enough, sometimes will get the attention because people go, what was going on? So that was her technique. And I tried that, and actually it did work. When I adapted it in my own way. And so I went really quiet and weird and weirder, and that kind of got the attention somehow.
And that grabs your attention. And also with your voice, and I've listened to clips, and it is wondrous. And do you have an octave range because your voice can go so high? Is it that trained that you can go through?
Yes. Yeah. Well, not really trained. I mean, I never had any proper. I had some training, but never really any proper training. I was never trained as an opera singer or anything like that. I just followed. I just listened to Julie Andrews records.
It's just the Julie Andrews method.
Yes. So she had a 4-octave range when she was a child. I have a 4-octave range even now. But I'm not a child anymore.
No.
And no, definitely not. But I do have a 4-octave range, and from bottom G, to G5 for those who know these things. And
do you have to look after it? Before your performance, you have to warm up?
Yes. Well, you do have to look after it. The older I get, the lazier I get, and the more I find I can get away with murder than I didn't think I could when I was young. I would stop drinking, let's say, like 3 weeks before a concert tour or a long run in a show or something like that. And I was very well behaved when I was young. Now I'm starting to kind of, I can get away. Yeah, that's all right. I can drink a little bit.
Well, you've got to enjoy life, haven't you? So
yes, and it's time to do it. I've really been really, really good. I've been honoring my craft all these years, and now I am, I'm being slightly naughtier. I still think that obviously drinking booze is very bad for your voice, and obviously smoking is bad for your voice. But I'm doing both every now and then, and I kind of go.
Well, I think you've done more than your fair share of entertaining. So I think it's it sounds like you. And so, what is your family when you were growing up? And did you have family back in Italy? And
yes, I still have family back in Italy. My mother is 92.
Wow.
And my father is 85. She got herself a toy boy, and they're still together. They love each other, and they were always extremely supportive. My mother is president of the Parents of Gay Men Association, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And she's a kind of very, very outspoken rights person, and I was very lucky. Obviously when I came out to them, I was 14.
Yeah,
that was a bit of a shock, but it didn't last more than 3 days, and after that they were extremely supportive. And I'm an only child, so they could have said, "Oh my God, we're never going to be grandparents," but they've been fantastic, and they are to this day, and they loved all my boyfriends and all my many boyfriends, and
that's what. And you've travelled around the world. Where would you say your sort of most favourite, some of the best performances you've had overseas?
Oh God, that's a beautiful question, because it makes me want to recall. I would say Mexico. I would say Russia. I would say India, the States, but of course my home, London. I mean, to me, there's nothing like home. I know you would say I'm Italian and everything, but I'm not really. I grew up in London.
So do you see yourself as a Londoner over Italia? How would you say?
I am a Londoner all through and through.
Yeah.
I don't, obviously, yes, when I was a child, I was in Italy, but then I grew up in London. I moved to London when I was in my 20s. All of my grown-up life was spent in London. I am a Londoner, and it hurts me so much that because of Brexit, I can't really be a Londoner anymore, which is bloody crazy. And now that my parents are older, I need to go back to Italy, and I can't really stay for as much as I would like because I could lose rights in Britain if I do because of Brexit. It is so horrible. It's just crazy.
So you're still a Italian national then?
Yes, because you didn't need to do that up to 2 months ago. Even now, you don't really need to do it. But nobody knows what's going on, so everybody's going berserk and crazy. And I never even thought about changing my nationality because I didn't need to.
You didn't. Have
nobody did. You could be from Wolverhampton and spend your lifetime in Spain, and now you probably cannot do that anymore.
Ernesto, you've completely highlighted that fact because I didn't even. Of course, it's all changed now. So that's.
It hasn't really changed yet. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But it will in March. It will, and it's just a huge, horrible. Everything tragic. I think for my Britain, for my London, for my friends, for the people I love, that they're just not going to be able to do what they want anymore. They've got to obey the law decided by some old ugly farts who just believe in unhappiness.
Well, I tell you what, it's not over until the fat lady sings. And,
totally.
And believe
Thank God I'm slim.
And
so.
you're slim. You could always put on a fat suit or dress. And there's something there. So just and I used to live in London. So where if you were going out for a day in London, where's London for you? Where'd you like to go? Where's a nice place to relax?
I go a lot. I live in West London because I've been there from the good old days, like we were saying before. But nowadays London is East London. That's where every young tyke goes to. And so yes, I go to Bethnal Green, and that's where my friends live, and that's where I mingle, and that's where I go to. And actually, there was a horrible homophobic attack in the drugstore, in the Dalston drugstore, I think yesterday, which to me is crazy. I mean, that is like the hubbub of trendy, young, gay, queer, revolutionary, blah, 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 and yet people get queer bashed.
And
in 2018, in May 2018, it's still going on. So it's crazy. But that would be one of the hot spots that I would
you like to go
choose. Yeah.
So, and also there's the Maida Vale at the back of there, because I used to live not far from there, and the canals round the back. I think they call it Little Italy.
Little Venice.
Little Venice. That's it. Little Venice, and that's the Cafe Canal Theatre is there.
Of
course, you must, and that's beautiful around there.
I've been there. Yeah.
I
never performed there, but I've seen stuff there. Yeah.
I've seen
shows.
And so where can we find sort of like Ernesto? Where will you be performing? Not right away, but in the next 3 or 4 months, the rest of part of the year. Where will you be performing?
Well, I am going to be performing on the 31st of May. I'm going to be in Italy at the opening ceremony of a big film festival. And then 2 days later, there's going to be an evening with Ernesto Tomasini at the same festival, and Wolfgang Tillman, the great photographer, is going to receive a Life Achievement Award there, and we're going to meet because we're friends, and we're going to meet up there, and then I'm a new album of dance music. In fact, I can't really say too much because it's
Ernesto. Sorry, my darling. Just say that one more go back about 10 seconds because you just dropped out. I just lost you. So carry on again.
Okay. I'll start. So on the 31st of May, I am going to be performing at the opening ceremony of a big film festival in Italy. And in the same festival, Wolfgang Tillman, the great photographer, Turner Prize.
Yeah.
He will receive a Life Achievement Award, and we're friends, and we're going to meet up, and it's going to be wonderful to, he's German, but he lived in London for a long time, and so we're like part of the same London family. Then I am recording right now an album of dance music. music. And I'm going to be in early July in Milan, in northern Italy, in a play that I co-wrote and be co-starring with an amazing Italian actress and singer. So yeah, this is my next couple of months really.
Wonderful.
And then there's more happening after that, but this is okay by now.
That's enough. Well, that's wonderful, and I will make sure you can follow Ernesto on his website, and I'll put all the details in the bio as well, so people can find out about you, and an Instagram. You've got a wonderful Instagram account because I follow you on that. So
I'm new to it. I opened it a long time ago, but I kind of posted one picture, and that was that. And then like a couple of months ago, I was bit by the Instagram bug, and I can't be away from it.
There's a few more going up every day. I keep it. And one last question, if I may, and this is the one that I ask on the Funny Peculiar podcast, is who do you think I should interview from the show next or in future? Who would you recommend I try and track down?
My God, so many people. I mean, so many people. From my, oh gosh, maybe it's not on Instagram though, but the legend that is Man Parrish.
Man
Parrish.
Okay.
Man Parrish, I'll tell you in a few words. He was the producer of Gloria Gaynor, The Village People, Close Know Me. He's a legend. He's the man who created the first ever electro track in the world in 1978, if I'm not wrong. Man Parrish.
Wow.
That is my choice.
Wonderful. Well, I'll see if I can track him down, and I will get him on the podcast, and then it will be coming off the back of you that I say.
I'll put in a good word.
Well,
if you are on Facebook, that's easy, because that's where he operates mostly.
I'm on Facebook. Do please, and I'd love to have him on the show. That would be fantastic. So
okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ernesto.
No, thank you. I'm so glad. I mean, I love what you do. I love your pictures on Instagram, and people like you keep the flame alive, and it's so sweet and lovely that we're all part of the same family somehow through the ages and through time and space. And
and quick, because we spoke about that earlier about the RuPaul phenomenon and mainstream. What do you make of the American drag queens and that RuPaul thing? Is that it's a great thing, obviously. How do you find it?
Yes, I welcome it. I'm a bit worried that it might get the whole phenomenon of far too wholesome and sweet, when there is also room for being nasty and challenging and even evil. It's all too kind of wholesome and pure, but it's definitely interesting and wonderful and beautiful, and drag will always be there. RuPaul it's what we're doing now, but Elizabethan drama, as we were saying before, was there before, and then those drag queens from the London scene in the 80s, and something else will turn up at some point. You can't take drag away from a boy. Really.
That's a great way to end that. It will never go. Thank you ever so much again, and thank you for coming on the Funny Peculiar podcast.
Bless you, honey. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
You've been listening to Funny Peculiar. Tune in next week. More great guests.
A big thank you again to Ernesto for coming on the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. It was really interesting to talk to him. Just to recap on where you can find him, he's got his website, which is ernestotomasini.com. He's on Instagram, Facebook. His Twitter account is @ErnestoTomasini. This will all be on the iTunes bio, or if you go to the website, www.funnypeculiar.org, it's all in the comment section on each episode, and I'll list them all there. So thank you again. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing, and keep it funny peculiar.